Welcome to Truth, Money, and Freedom. Today is Friday, April 5th, 2019, and I want to share this story with you guys and give you some analysis here. Why Trump wants the Fed to pump even more easy money. Um, Guys, this is actually kind of important because you have Trump who's been claiming, the economy is because of him. We know, the boom bust cycle is coming to the end of another cycle. We're going into a bust. And Trump knows this. Well, everyone on the inside knows this. And the only way the the Federal Reserve can deal with these issues and prevent another quote unquote recession is to print more money and lower interest rates. So where are we with that? Well, the fact is the Federal Reserve is engaged in quantitative tightening right now, which is selling off their balance sheet. That's the useless pieces of paper they bought from the banks that took down the system back in 2008. So we're talking about credit defaults. Um, um, we're talking about credit default swaps, mortgage-backed securities, all that destructive, worthless paper that literally took down the system in 2008. The Federal Reserve bought a lot of those from the banks and gave them money in return so they could actually start lending money out, unfreeze the credit system. Well, the Federal Reserve is still engaged in quantitative tightening. That means reducing its balance sheet. It's selling back some of that useless paper back to the banks. They're giving the Federal Reserve money, and the Federal Reserve announced back in March that they are not destroying the money that comes in back to the Federal Reserve, which is how the monetary system works. They're actually buying treasuries with it. So we're not actually involved in quantitative tightening anymore because the money's not being destroyed. It's going in to buy treasuries that are, through open market operations. We are literally hovering. We're staying the same. There's no money being taken, quote unquote, out of the system anymore because it's going back into treasuries. Well, it's not enough. It's not enough. The yield curve inversion is still there, and people are getting scared. Trump knows what this means. The Federal Reserve knows what this means. All the big banks know what it means, and all the insiders and traders all know what it means. And that means there's only one thing left to do, which is pump more money and lower interest rates. So the Federal Reserve print more money, throw it into the system somehow. There's always different mechanisms for taking cheap and easy money and throwing it into the system. We could talk about that for days, actually. Ben Bernanke referred to it as helicopter money. But any way you slice it, that is where we're going. Whether we like it or not, whether we agree with it or not, that's where we're going to go because they're going to try and stave off this next. I think we're in a recession right now. Can't prove it. It always takes a little while to be sure. But they always fudge the numbers. So it's impossible to tell from the numbers from the Federal Reserve or from the federal government. But that's what's going on. And here's a Trump tweet right here. Despite the unnecessary and destructive actions taken by the Fed, the economy is looking very strong. The China and USMCA deals are moving along nicely. There is little or no inflation, and USA optimism is very high. That's from April 4th. Trump had put that out. Here's the next story here. Yields dollar slide as Trump calls for QE4. That's quantitative easing 4, more easy money into the system. Here's a tweet right here, Zero Hedge. Trump says Fed should drop rates, stop quantitative tightening because the economy is so strong. Because that's what Trump always says, isn't it? We got a strong economy. It's awesome. It's really great. Well, it's micromanaged now. Our economy is a full-time job for the Federal Reserve and for the U.S. Treasury to keep things balanced. Now, as far as inflation goes, we still have inflation. We have a lot more than the Federal Reserve is telling us about, but we're not having as much as we should for how much money is in the system. That's what they're worried about. So Mike Maloney did a great video on this, and I should find it and link it below in the description about how that works. But if they start printing money again, we're in real trouble here because we will have it won't start right away when they start printing money. Inflation won't start right away, but it will start, and then they'll have printed too much money and put it into the system before they know the full effects. So Trump took credit for this economy. He says it's awesome. He says it's great, but now he's saying we need to stop quantitative tightening, which is not having an effect anymore. Remember now, if the Fed is not destroying money that's coming back to them as they sell off their balance sheet, if they're not destroying that money, either it's digital money, um, um, whether it's paper money, it's supposed to be destroyed when it goes back to the Fed. When the Fed takes that money that they've gotten back from selling off things in their balance sheet and buy things with it, like treasuries, which is what they're doing now, that's called monetizing the debt. And that doesn't work in our system. And that's technically, I think it's supposed to be considered illegal, at the very least immoral, but that's what they're doing. So, and then the Fed basically is buying up its own assets with that money. Those are their assets. So if they get to print money out of nothing, out of nowhere, just print away and buy things for themselves, why shouldn't we have a printing machine in our basements and be able to print money? Oh, no, no, that's called counterfeit. We can't do that. Well, all the money is counterfeit, actually. This money is worthless. And it's becoming more worthless, as they continue to print. So I just wanted to make you guys aware that Trump now is talking about quantitative easing. He's talking about interest rates coming down, plus he's talking about quantitative easing, which is printing more money and throwing it into the system. Because he knows what's coming. And like I said, those are the only two tools the Federal Reserve has, apart from just lying, outright lying, which is what the federal government and the Federal Reserve do to try and calm people down when we're hitting times of financial turmoil. And for instance, they say now that unemployment's down to 3.8%. My God, I told you guys when I went to California, I saw all these homeless people. Springfield, Missouri, if you go to the north side of Springfield, Missouri, there's 2 homeless camps up there. The homelessness thing is an epidemic, and I'm going to do a podcast on that very soon because it's been institutionalized here in America, being homeless. And that is a really, really big problem. It breeds a lot of other issues. I don't know that I've done a video on this, but I really need to, because people are actually starting to change the laws in cities for public defecation to become legal, to make things easier for the homeless. That's what I mean by institutionalizing homelessness. Okay, I didn't mean to get so long-winded, but I did want to bring these stories to your attention. I will link them below. All I'm saying, guys, is this is for anyone who ever said, oh, people keep saying the economy's crap and, yet it seems to be really good. The media says it's really strong. Trump, of course, is saying it's strong. He's even claiming credit for how strong it is. This is them saying, oh, crap. And they're trying to change policy because of it. This is, I think, something that we need to pay very, very close attention to, because we do have a recession coming, and it's going to be a big one. Yeah, my power just went out. Sorry about all these messages, gang. But it's going to be a big one. It's going to be really, really bad. It'll probably lead into something much worse than a recession. But this is how bad it is. Guys, they cannot lower rates more than 2.4% because that's where we're at the Fed funds rate. They're going to have to go negative on this next one. They're going to print an enormous amount of money and shove it into the system. If you're used to going to the store and buying a quart of strawberries, and that quart of strawberries costing you about $4, who knows what it'll be, when they start printing money, 8, 10, 12 bucks for that quart of strawberries. Milk, whatever you go buy in the store should go up. Gasoline is starting to go up, and that's another story I should be doing. The federal government is raising gasoline taxes. And normally that comes up almost every year. The Republicans always say no, the Democrats say yes, but this time they're both in agreement. So gasoline taxes are definitely going up, and it'll probably happen within a couple of months. It's happening, gang. They're starting, and that's what you do during the time like this. The government is looking inward now. They're going to tax the crap out of us to try and survive. The government is in survival mode, and in survival mode, they must cannibalize the public so that the government can survive. Think of it as a living, breathing beast that keeps growing, and as it keeps growing, it must feed. It must feed, and it feeds on us, the U.S. citizen. We are the food for the federal government, and that's all we are to them. All they care about is that they get their tax money from us. That's all they care. And if we're not paying taxes anymore, well, the federal government would rather have us dead if we're not paying taxes. Well, gosh darn it, isn't that the way it is in communism, where you exist to serve the state? Well, that's where we're going, folks. Okay, I've gone on too long. Thank you very much for listening to me again today. I'd like to read my libertarian statement. Income tax, so you know you don't own your labor. Sales tax, in case you thought you owned that money. Inflation, just in case you're foolish enough to save. Capital gains tax, to punish you for trying to get ahead of inflation. Property tax, so you know you can't own anything. Inheritance tax, so you can't pass on what little is left. God bless you guys. Thank you for listening to me today. Thank you for subbing to us, and thank you for all the comments. You are all very much appreciated. God bless you guys. Have a good day.